we chosen for? Why did God choose the Jewish people? And what purpose and what role did the Jewish people play in the history of mankind? We will look to the Bible, to the Word of God, to find the answer to this question. We will ask ourselves, where does God answer this question? In the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 21, God tells us, "It is this nation I have formed for myself. I created this nation for myself in order that they tell my praise." They speak of God's praises. The word Jew means praising, acknowledging, thanking God. That is what the word Jew means. And that is what this verse in Isaiah is telling us, that God chose the Jewish people to speak the praise of God. Isaiah tells us that God calls the Jewish people a witness nation. We are here to testify to certain truths. Simply, we would say that the Jewish people are here to testify to the truths, to the basic truth that every human being is a subject of God. God is the master of every human being, and no human being is subject to any other. There may be a concept of kings, governors, presidents, but that's not an intrinsic value, it's not an intrinsic truth. Intrinsically, what we really are, all of us are really equal, we're all equally subject before God. How have the Jewish people fulfilled this destiny, this mission that God entrusted them with? The Jewish people went about doing their business, following the observances of God, following God's commandments to the best of their ability, trying to live moral lives, trying to live honest lives, trying to live lives filled with kindness. Were we perfect? No, we were not. We're human beings, and human beings by nature are not perfect. We're far from perfect. But our activity, our endeavor, our attempt, and our message came across. It came across to the nations, perhaps not so directly, but the indirect message came across. And the indirect message impacted civilization and continues to impact civilization. The fact that the Jewish people live with a knowledge, they live with the concept that we all stand in a relationship to God, honors humanity. It shows us how God has respect for humanity. God has a relationship with humanity, and He entrusts human beings, frail, fragile, human beings that are full of mistakes, full of wrong and evil, but still God entrusts them with His commandments, with the fulfillment of His commandments, and He favors the fulfillment of His commandments. And they're godly, and God accepts the actions of human beings. That is a message of respect to humanity. The teaching that every man is created in the image of God. The teaching that one day all of mankind will stand together in brotherhood. The hope that all of mankind will realize their destiny, and that the success of mankind is that when people recognize and they acknowledge that praising God, thanking God, acknowledging God in every breath of their life, acknowledging the kindness of God in their daily lives, and living with morality, living with honesty is the most successful thing, the route to happiness, and that is the happiness of mankind. That is the message of Judaism to the world, and that is the message that the world has taken. On the side of the UN building, it's not a quote from the Quran, it's not a quote from the New Testament, it's a quote from the book of Isaiah, which speaks of how all of mankind will one day live in peace and brotherhood. That is the message of the Jewish people, and that is what we were chosen for.